So, I'm filthy. Yikes. That's what you get for working a full-time job. Um, as you can probably tell from the title, this is a video about General Motors and their corporation. Now, I own a 1971 Chevrolet Monte Carlo, and I'm a Chevy guy, but for that era and that generation of automobile, I love them all, right? Muscle cars are the shit, in my opinion. But I do like American stuff. So I'm in a position right now where my old engine blew up and cracked some skirts on some pistons. Like, holy fuck me. But anyways, I'm rebuilding the engine, and I really just don't. The block I had was all fucked up. Yada yada yada. Anyways, I decided I was going to get a new engine block. And I was doing some debating, and I'm like, I just don't want to spend the money on a dart block or a blueprint block or a Motown Motors block. Or it's a lot of money. You get a blueprint engine, you can get their base engines for like a little under $2,000, and Dart, I mean, you're looking at about a little under $2,000, and that's a lot of money to spend on just a block, especially considering that's all you get, a block and maybe some cam bearings. Woo! That's fantastic. $2,000 down the drain. If you're like me, making less than $30,000 a year, which is like I'm gonna say 95% of this fucking country. America. I'm an American. I live in America. That's a lot of fucking money, man. That's a small fortune, and to just drop that, and you still need a crank, you still need fucking rods, you still need pistons, you still need heads, you still need springs for the fucking valve train, you still need valves, you still need a camshaft, you still need rocker arms, you still need fucking rocker studs and push rods, and God fucking knows that shit adds up quick, and we're not even getting into gaskets yet. And rod bolts and fucking the list goes on. I wanted to keep it American, and I wanted to buy quality, right? So you've got a General Motors car from 1971, and you think to yourself, okay, you want quality, or I think to myself, I want quality, and I don't want to spend a fucking fortune, right? I want to buy something that's reasonable. I don't want to fucking I don't want to short myself, but I don't want to spend my entire bank account for the next 4 months and put it on a credit card and hope. You know what I mean? If you're smart, you just don't put it on a card. If you don't have the cash, you don't buy it. You can put it through a card, but we're not going to get into that. I'm not going to do businessman. Anyways, from GM, you can buy a small block Chevy, just the engine block with the freeze plugs and the cam bearings installed, and it's got the 4-bolt main and main caps. And can I spin this? I'm not allowed to spin this, I guess. Anyways, I'll spin it eventually and show it to you. There'll be some editing, but you can buy that block for just about $1,000. Two-piece rear main seal is $1,080 off Jegs. And as of recording this, at least, which is fuck day is it? It's or June 12th, 2019, and it costs $1,080 or something like that, within like $10 or $20, not including freight. And that's we'll get into that. And then you've got a 2-piece rear main seal, small block Chevy, or 1-piece rear main seal is like $1,150, something close to that. Now, that all sounds well and good, and I'm going to spin you around, and I'm going to show you what the block looks like. All right, so here we are. This is the block. On the outside, looks fantastic. It's everything looks good. It's a cast iron block. You're not going to see a whole lot unless it's really really, really poorly done. You're not going to see a whole lot wrong with it. But it's the details that count, right? So when you're building an engine, this is my first time building an engine. If you're building an engine, one of the things that you wind up starting to look at is your dimensions. So when they talk about blueprinting an engine, like you'll hear people talk about, oh, I have my engine balanced and blueprinted. I'm not going to get into balanced, because I honestly don't know near enough about it. But blueprinted, from what I have understood, just means that you have measured all of your surfaces. So, for instance, you've measured the bore of each of your mains, and you've measured that they are within tolerance, right, for what you're looking for. The cam bearings, I mean, you can measure those, but it's a small, I mean, I haven't done it yet, but I'm not done measuring this. So you should. I probably will. You measure all your machine surfaces. Let's spin this bad boy around. Oh, this is way easier without heads on it. I tried doing this before. It was a nightmare. Okay. You'll measure your cylinder bores. You'll measure your deck surface. You'll even measure your lifter bores. You'll measure everything on this engine. You know why you'll measure it? To make sure it's all good, all accurate, all exactly where it needs to be. And if it's not, you send that shit the fuck back. Because it's a lot of money, and if you do put this thing together just hoping that the machinist that built it, because no matter what you do, you're hoping the machinist that built it and the guy who quality controlled it did their job right. And that's a mistake, because people make mistakes. And you don't want to be the guy that made the mistake that cost you, shit, it can be anywhere from $800 to $10,000 or $30,000 or God knows. I mean, they build race engines that are stupid, and you gotta measure everything. So, one of the things, when you deal with a machining company, not a shop that's near you, but like a company like Dart or General Motors or Motown or Blueprint, or you pick the company, you will find, at least if you call them, you'll find some explanation for their machining, their tolerances, what they're shooting for, so on and so forth. And that's what I expected. Now, General Motors has let me down in a colossal way. I've measured the bores. I've measured the lifter bores. I haven't measured the mains yet because my gauge is, well, unfortunately, it's not quite what I thought it was, but that's all right. I'll make it happen somehow. When I got this block, I was under the impression that it was American-made. Well, unfortunately, it's not. I mean, I think I was one of very, very few that didn't know it, but these guys are cast in Mexico, and as far as I'm aware, they're machined in Mexico too, because here's the kicker. When I got this block in the mail, which cost me $1,000, which is a lot of money. I mean, period. I know to a billion-dollar corporation it's not, but to a guy, to 98 or 99% of the population, that's a lot of fucking money. So for $1,000, what did I get in the mail? Obviously on a freight truck. Well, I got that bag, that tan little tarp-looking thing, and I got a shipping manifest that said the company that freighted it to me actually delivered it to my home. Okay, you might be thinking to yourself, if maybe you've never ordered an engine or are new to this or something, well, what's missing? Well, I'll tell you what's missing. All of these dimensions, the quality control paperwork, the paperwork that tells me what my clearances need to be. The paperwork that has the signature of the person who quality controlled my block. I got nothing on this fucking engine. Not a thing. I have no idea if this is what they say it is, right? The only way I know is if I personally go through and measure everything, which you should do anyways, but a company should not assume that you're doing that. Now, here's why I believe that. I'm going to flip you around again. All right, so as I'm going through and building this engine in a JEGS catalog, because that way you can kind of price out what everything's going to be, and, you can break it down a little bit easier than writing it down on paper. We've got technology, you might as well use it, right? So as I'm pricing everything out and I'm looking at everything, I'm deciding what I want. Okay, I've decided that I want these pistons. For example, they're actually the pistons I want. They're KB Claimer Series pistons. Now KB is under the wing of UEM, which is United Engine Machining. I believe that's what it stands for. I'm not certain. If you go on their website, you can download the catalog for KB hypereutectic pistons. In that catalog, it has pretty much all the information you're ever going to need. It has the CC of the piston itself. So that's whether it's domed. If it's a negative CC, that'll mean that it's I'm not going to get into it, but that would mean that it's domed if it's negative CC. If it's positive CCs, that'll mean that it doesn't necessarily have a dish, but that, some kind of a fluid, or in this case, combustible, material fuel, can accumulate in it. It adds to the overall size of that final combustion chamber that you have once the piston has come up and reached top dead center, and it's you've got the head chamber and you've got the gap and yada yada yada. That'll add to it. So I go through and I'm looking at everything and I'm measuring my bores, and I have no information on my block whatsoever aside from what General Motors, I guess, told Jegs, because I'm looking at Jegs and I'm seeing that they're telling me I need a 4-inch bore, and it's finished at 4 inches, 4.0000. That's what they tell me. Okay, that's great. I'm measuring it and it's at 4.0001. 4 inches and 1 thou. All right, that's not a big deal. 1 thou. It doesn't sound like a whole lot. That's a thousandth of an inch. Right? Well, it is a lot. That's a shit ton. Because when you're dealing with engines, you're talking about tenths. Everything that's clearance is clearanced within a tenth. So that's a tenth of a thousandth of an inch. That's nothing. You can't see it. It's stupid. Okay, right? So we get into it. And I can't find out what's up with this block. So I have to call KB. Well, actually, let's backpedal. I can't find out what's up with this block because I'm measuring things, and they are all relatively accurate. Everything is within half a thou, all these bores, which is fine. That's actually a good thing. But it's not what it's advertised at. So I think I called 4 or 5 times. Was it? Maybe 3. I think I called 3 times. Called General Motors 3 times. Trying to get some amount of information on this engine block. This engine block, which they manufacture in their goddamn manufacturing plant in Toledo, Mexico, or Toledo, or where the god, I don't even know where. Somewhere that I don't speak the language of. I'll tell you that much. So, every time I call, what do I get? I don't have that information. You guys can call this one, though. Okay, fine, I'll call these guys. Oh, well, I don't have that information. You could call these guys, though. Okay, I'll call those guys. Well, we don't have that information. Well, you can call Jegs, though. Oh, I can call fucking Jegs. Oh, wonderful. Thanks for that fucking information. Let me call Jegs. So I call Jegs. This is, mind you, I got no problem with Jegs. Jegs has always treated me well. Jegs says, well, you know what? It's listed at 4 inches. Across the board, you're out of thou. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Most people punch these things out anyways. I look at that, I'm like, yeah, that's great, but that's not what I want to do with it. So now I'm in a position where, okay, great. So I bought an engine block that I've got no information on. Now, KB, or actually UEM, I call them to find out what dimension they actually machine their pistons to, because there's generally, if they call out for a 4-inch bore on the pistons, they will machine it a little bit smaller to build in a little bit of a clearance. And so I called them and said, what clearance do you guys machine to? What's it actually, if I get a pair before I buy them, if I got a pair, what would they actually measure out to? They say, okay, that's going to measure out to 3 inches, 999 thousandths, and 5 tenths. Okay, well, awesome. What's your tolerance? And they tell me their tolerance. And then I call Promax, which is a head company. And I ask them all kinds of detailed technical questions, and what do? They answer every single one of them. So KB or UEM, they're awesome companies. Promax, awesome company. Jegs is also a very good company, but they're also they're a middleman, right? They don't have that much information. Who's a shitty fucking company? General Motors. The fact that they don't supply you, if you buy an engine block from them, you can assume that it's going to be fair quality. I mean, you have to go through and measure everything, because the way they treated me, this fucking loop of no technical information on this engine block whatsoever, and then no paperwork coming with it at all, and them having no explanation for it in any way, shape, or form is mind-boggling to me. So, yeah, there you go. I wouldn't say avoid GM, but I would certainly say be aware of the Hencho and Mexico.